T minus 2 minutes here. I hope everyone is ready to go.
And if they're
I
not,
hope
I'm
I'm
still
ready
going to
to go.
record this anyway and post it on the internet.
I hope I'm ready to go. Please, if you're watching, please post questions or comments. We want to take your questions and comments as the episode goes, especially as we talk about some of these rodents here. Um, and I do actually, you know what? I have 1 minute, so I will be right back. I totally forgot all of those free cards I have.
All right, go. Run away. Go. Get out of here. I'll entertain the people. All right, he's gone. Now, what I want you to do, very slowly, is write in the comments how much you hate him so much. I'm kidding. He's great. No, just hang tight. We'll go ahead and get going. So, if you didn't know, this weekend when we went to MetroCon, I will also be doing one at DragonCon. So I know Glitch, you're going to be there. But hopefully, if anyone's out in DragonCon area, I'll actually be a part of another panel where we have to tell people how great science can be when it's utilized for the future, but mainly the pitfalls that come to it. Like, what is the pitfall of having a self-driving car? Where could AI go bad? When your robot masseuse decides to get too handsy, that weird stuff.
Speaking of AI, which we should totally do an episode on AI because I have a guy.
Mm-hmm.
We should, because Porygon is an AI essentially.
Voltorb, Kling Klang, like they're all AIs.
Clink Clank is. See, I don't know, man. I just, especially after our last episode, with dealing with all the yokai crap, and it's not crap, but you know what I mean, like dealing
Yeah,
with all
yeah.
the yokai stuff. I genuinely feel like a lot of these animated objects tie into this whole yokai thing.
I mean, it feels like a thing that they would do, but I have much more fun assuming that it's technology gone horribly right. That's a me thing.
So,
All right,
here we
it's
go,
yeah.
and we are starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, ladies and
What's
gentlemen.
up to the science of Pokemon? As you guys may know me, I am Veteran Lucas, and with me as always is Professor Collins. How you been, Professor?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages. I'm sure we don't have people who are that old
Yeah,
watching,
they're
but
mostly in their
still,
20s. I'll be honest, 20s and
people in their 20s. Yeah.
30s. All right.
Well,
So
that's the thing. We probably aren't going to attract a whole lot of 16-year-old Pokemon fans. Hey, do you guys want to learn about science?
they don't want to learn about science on their own time. They barely learn it in school. So anyway, for those who are just grabbing on here, this is our first live episode. So even if you're just hearing this after we've turned it into audio, don't worry, we're gonna post this on the podcast stuff so that way everyone can hear it. But for those of you watching, what's up? Thanks for being here. We really do appreciate it. No matter how few, no matter how grand, we appreciate every ounce of support we get. Now, today's special episode, before we get too far off topic, every single podcaster has to do it. It's on the list. So we are going to have an entire episode dedicated to Pikachu, and we are going to talk about every single electric rodent that is out right now. At the time of this recording, Gen 8 hasn't been out yet. So whatever horrifying electric
But it's
abomination they
coming,
come up with, I
and
don't.
we're going to Spain.
We are okay. All right. So we have a live recording now. You know the deal. If we go to Spain, I will breed you a Pokemon of your choice. Legends
Yay!
excluded. I don't
Yay!
breed legends are annoying to breed. All right. So while we're doing this episode, please feel free to comment or talk about anything you'd like. I'll be taking a look
And
periodically at YouTube just to see who is asking for anything.
if you are on our YouTube and you are watching, if you are on our Discord, if you message us on either our Facebook page
Mhm.
or our Discord, we have this lovely pile of all of these great cards.
Ooh.
If you need a Zagarde or Thunderous or Tornadus, or if you need Raikou or Entei, I am just happy to give these to you. Please message us and I will just send you one.
All right. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and no, put those away. Put those away. We are not that kind of podcast. Yeah, I mean, if you want me to be, hey guys, welcome back. I'm Veteran Lucas. Today we're gonna have a fantastic podcast. Podcast.
Oh,
Podcast.
hi. So let's do this. Let's talk. So this episode's about mice. We said. So let's get started here. Let's go into what we've learned about um,
Rodents.
rodents, and then we can talk about electricity because that was
That
wow.
was your job. That's your thing. All right, cracks, knuckles. All right, there we go. All right. So one of the things we should definitely talk about is rodents. Now, a lot of people have this. Get back on the camera. Now, one of these people have this preconception about rodents that they are filthy, that they carry disease, that they're gonna bite things. All three things have happened throughout history. Yes, they are weird, dirty little animals, but they're one of the coolest ones. So out of over about 4,000 different mammals on the planet, how many of those 4,000 do you think are rodents?
Uh, uh, I actually don't know.
Don't look at the script. Look in my eye. Look in my eye.
I'm not looking at the script actually. I don't know where I put it.
All right.
1,000 or so, right?
So it's actually about 1,500. So that is
Wait,
almost,
that's a third.
yeah, that is a third, roughly, of every single mammal, and they are rodents. So rodents
Really?
make up an incredibly large part. Now, I have my list of rodents here. So we have everything from squirrels and chipmunks to rats and mice.
Capybaras.
Yeah, capybaras are my favorite because they're so big. Then we have porcupines, woodchucks, prairie dogs, beavers, marmots, and chinchillas. They are found on almost every single continent. They are found in almost every single environment. They will feed on almost anything they can find. They have some of the highest level of biodiversity of any group of animal. And I feel that's worth talking about because considering like the world we live in and all the different places to see and go, you can find rats anywhere. If I dropped you in a jungle, I would take you a little bit, but you'd probably find a rodent. If I dropped you in the desert, you'd find a rodent. Drop you in a city, you'll find too many rodents. A few episodes back, and I don't know if you like episode like 5 where we talked about dogs. We talked about the first ever like domesticated animals and talked about cats and dogs. Rats kind of worked like cats did. They just kind of showed up and realized, hey, this human's dropping food. Let's hang around him. And because
Well,
of
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of how dogs started too. It's just the difference was is that early man was like, "Hey, you're kind of useful."
Now, the other thing that's important to understand is rats are incredibly durable. Rodents in general, being able to survive and adapt to any situation makes them so prolific in many different parts of the world. Now, for rats specifically, these animals have the ability to chew through steel cable if you give them enough time. They are able to swim about half a mile in distance. Hang on, I'm suppressing a burp. All right, there we
Half a
go.
mile?
Half a mile. You can let a rat swim for half a mile. We'll be talking about that
That's
a little later.
wait,
later.
that's crazy.
Yeah. What's even crazier is the gestation period. So I have the numbers right here. Let me see here. I'm terrible at math. Okay. So the gestation period, so the pregnancy of a rat, how long do you think it is?
A week. I
It's
don't know.
it's actually about 3 weeks. So getting pregnant, giving birth, 3 weeks. In that 3 week period, they can have between 3 and 14 babies, and they can reproduce about 10 times a year. So do the math on that one. 14 babies times 10 per year.
That's a lot of babies.
That's 140 baby rats from one female. That
Yeah.
is why they can breed so quickly. It takes us 9 months to pop out one, maybe two if we're
I feel
lucky.
like I feel like there's a stand-up comic joke there somewhere. By 110, they were just walking out.
Oh my, no, oh no, it's not even funny when you consider like the number of rats that live in cities and urban areas. Like these animals proliferate so
So
ridiculously.
can I comment on this?
Yeah.
So here's my weird question because obviously, if you have ever lived in New York City or have ever been to New York City, rats are a nuisance.
Mhm.
Sorry, I mean I like they are. Uh, it's kind of odd to this I don't know how to describe it, but we have an issue where in this country literally uh, per to match for every like house cat there is a cat that lives outdoors.
Mhm.
There's some 100 million cats, um, and so you think like the rat thing wouldn't be as much of a problem.
Mhm. Oh, you're correct in that front. You're correct, but so rats and are really interesting, and mice and rodents in general. These animals are much better at hiding. They're small animals, and their whole body plan is designed to hide from larger predators. Now, of course, cats and things can catch them. That's why we have the history of it. But think about it: 100 million cats. That's nothing compared to the rat population. The rats can easily double, triple, quadruple that. And the cats have other options to go after. They have birds to go after as well. So one of the things that's interesting about cats is they've wiped out about 30 different bird species that we know of because they were just let outside. So there are other things to go after that aren't as prepared. Now, obviously, the cat's going to probably go for a mouse or a rat or whatever it can catch, but the difference between birds and rats is that the birds have a higher gestation period. The rats can produce more of themselves. So it's a matter of quantity over quality. What are you putting on some headphones there, Butto?
Yeah, I was curious if I'm gonna give you feedback at all.
No, we're good
I
so
just
far.
re
No one's
Okay.
commenting on the feedback.
I
Hang on, let me
just
see how
realized I
much.
didn't know how loud it was or not.
No, we're good so far.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's everything. Now, I do want to discuss the second part. It's not just about rats. We want to talk about electricity in nature because
Oh,
when you work with animals, the number one thing people ask when they touch a fish is it going to electrocute me? Because that's all
is it?
people know, and the answer is almost always no. So, to explain how electricity works in a what would now?
Uh, yeah, no, let's I thought we were gonna talk about like other electricity in nature though, right?
Yeah, no, we're totally going to talk about that. The one thing you should definitely know is that we do have animals that produce and sense electricity in nature. It is
You know,
not, yeah, what?
sorry, actually, I was just listening. Sorry, because I way too much science.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was last week's Science Friday. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you ever listened to Science Friday,
Mm-hmm.
NPR science podcast. But they were talking about what the heck they had figured out how um what kind of fish was it? It was in Africa. I think it was in South Africa.
Is it
They'd
knife
figured out
fish?
well they figured out how the electricity there's not feedback from their own
Pulse.
yeah they figured out how the brain was able to how the fish's brain is able to sense other pulses while simultaneously emitting their own pulse and not getting confused by their own pulse.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is like because I was listening to it with my daughter and I mean, she didn't understand any of it, but I was like, wow, that's a really interesting thing to think about how much their brain has to develop to recognize their own signal so that they're not continuously reading their signal as another fish.
Yeah, no. So the thing is with that, you've hit it on the head. A lot of fish, or the fish that do have it, don't use it directly for hurting other animals or defending them. A lot of them can use it for communication or sensation. Typically how it works, so I'll use the most common example, the electric eel, which is not actually an eel, but put that down. We don't need to see that, right? The electric types ruin it anyway. All right, so how it'll work is there will be sets of organs in the body and some of them could take up about 4/5 of the entire length of the electric eel's body. And they are created with electrolytes. Now, these electrolytes, when they are given a signal to the brain, it'll pass through to these ion generating organs. And the simplest way I can say it is, you know the Pokemon move Discharge? It's kind of like
Yeah.
that. It's just that. It just pulsates outwards, so it makes it like it completely stuns anything around them. Now they can use this for feeding, and they can use this for defense. But the mass majority of them are going to use it to sense for their food. So think of it almost like sonar. My favorite
Well,
example. What's up?
I know sharks do that.
Yes, they can
Um,
sense electricity. Do you know the name of
that's
the
how
organ? It's a
the
fun word.
lateral line.
No, the lateral lines would all fish have down their sides. Sharks
Oh,
have,
that's the thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry. No, I'm not a
yeah.
fish guy.
No, it's all good. It's called the ampullae of Lorenzini. So what they're gel-filled caps that sense electrical impulses coming around them. So everything gives off electricity naturally, so they can just sense it. So it's different from producing electricity, but having electricity in nature is not something different. There's actually one insect that can actually convert solar energy into electrical energy. But we'll get to that hopefully in another episode. Let's see here. What else do I have in my notes?
There's an insect?
There is an insect that works with solar energy, but
That's crazy.
we'll talk about it in another episode. We're talking about rodents this time.
That's
Let's
so
see.
crazy though.
There is one other animal that does use electrical sensation. I'll give you a hint. It's the weirdest animal that has been placed on this earth.
Oh, oh, it's the one that they make fun of at the beginning of Dogma.
Platypus?
Yeah, they make the opening credits to the Kevin Smith movie Dogma actually makes fun of the platypus that it is a mistake by God.
Ouch. But no, its bill allows it to sense electrical signals similar to how a shark does. So yes, it does have every ability ever made by any animal ever.
It's got toxic, it's poisonous, it's venomous,
I
it's
cannot wait to see them turn this into a Pokemon because it will happen, and when it does, I will be waiting. I will be waiting.
well, and I know that's something that there's a whole list of plethora, and I think that's going to be our next live episode. Animals in the animal kingdom that actually need to be
Mhm.
Pokemon.
Yeah,
Yes,
that would be a
there's a whole bunch.
No, there's a
There's a,
pile of them.
oh yeah, there's a lot that you're like, wait, this takes up what percentage of the animal kingdom and it's not represented yet?
Mhm. Nematodes.
Dolphins.
No, don't know. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. We will talk about dolphins at another date. You know my hatred for this creature. For those of you listening, Mister the veteran hates dolphin. Ask him why in the comments. He'll tell you.
All right. So let's move on. So we know there are animals that can sense electricity, right?
Oh yeah, they're
And
totally.
and this helps them kind of survive. So let's talk about what electricity is, and I'm going to do my best to not butcher this. I apologize.
I'll get ready to take a
You know,
nap.
no, this is all right. So we're going to talk about voltage and amp because these are two things that we are going to discuss tonight.
Mhm.
So, and I'm going to try to remember the metaphors because we were supposed to do this episode in April, and you and I had worked for hours on this stupid metaphor.
No, no, you got this. I believe in you somewhat.
All right. So I know voltage is how quickly electricity is moving, or it's like the pressure behind it,
Mhm.
and amp is how much is moving per second.
Mhm.
So, and then when you multiply the two, that's how you get watts. So you think of we said water guns, right?
Yeah, water
Uh,
guns.
you have two water guns. You got the large super soaker with the giant nozzle, and you got the small one. Now, if both have the same barrel, the same water barrel, like in the '90s where you screw them on, and all right, whatever. So let's just say they both got the same amount of water, and they can both shoot out the same amount of water in 30 seconds. Now, one has a larger nozzle, so a larger opening. That's essentially the amps. Is how much is moving per second, and the water gun with the small nozzle, it has to push out more water at a faster rate to empty the tank at the same time. So when you have a bigger opening, it's coming out and it's just kind of it's a gentler hit, whereas the little one, it hurts. That's your it hits harder, which is that because it's that voltage there. Um, so the gun with the larger nozzle, it pushes the same amount of water as the one, but it has less pressure because more water can escape per second.
Mhm. Okay.
So
Makes
your
sense.
friend gets soaked, but they don't have welts.
Gotcha.
So yeah, all right. So we're going to talk about currents and amps. Now, currents, what is called 10 milliamps, which is a tenth of an amp,
Mhm.
that can paralyze or freeze muscles. So again, 10 milliamps. So literally a 100th. Sorry, so it's a 100th. It's a 100th of an amp can freeze your muscle. So when
Gotcha.
this freezing happens, a person can no longer, release the muscle. So you think of the person who gets electrocuted as they're working. That tool is stuck in their hand.
Mhm.
Um, the electrified object can even get held more tightly because the muscle is squeezing so tightly, which results in a larger exposure to a current. So for this reason, handhold tools that give shock, they can be dangerous. And if you can't let go of the tool, the current's going to keep going through your body for a longer time, which can lead to respiratory paralysis, which is essentially the muscles that control your breathing. They don't move,
Ugh.
and so you stop breathing, and that's not good. So
You die.
this is why we talk about. We were saying that electric types have this ability to inflict paralysis because if you look at how small amounts of ampage work, um, even 100th of an amp, which is 10 milliamps, um, can cause you. I mean, it can cause you enough problems that you can, end up having trouble breathing.
Now, I
And
do want to
so,
say, I do want to state one thing about paralysis. So, I talked about this at my Metricon panel as well when we were talking about Monster Hunter about paralysis. A lot of people have this idea of paralysis of, oh no, I can't move. I guess I'll stay stuck here. For paralysis, it doesn't just mean like the muscles in the arm. It's like you said, your lungs shut down, your heart shuts down, everything
yeah,
that is a muscle stops working. So anytime your Pokemon is like paralyzed in the game, I don't think of it the same way of like paralyzed, then you damage your spinal cord. I think it's similar to how like you can't breathe. Your Pokemon's literally trying to move, but it can't. It's kind of depressing.
yeah, no, and I think of it as like a utility worker. You get hit
Hmm.
by the electric line, and you're stuck there. I don't think it's not like you're not physically you know, frozen there.
Hang on one second.
It's
With like a couple of them are making like a couple of the people on the YouTube chat are making like hurts jokes,
Yeah,
like ouch this hurts. Like you stink, Glitch. You can go. No, CJ's right. You can leave. All right. Some of them suggested there should be a Jackalope Pokemon.
no.
Oh, and someone asked why I hate dolphins. Dolphins are the worst. They're mean. They will hurt you. They will hurt your families. They don't care about you. They don't love you. And they are the
And
most dangerous animal in the ocean. Do not mention any of the
Hank,
other stuff.
Hank Hill would agree.
Oh, God, he would.
Ah!
Oh, yeah, no, they are. They are wicked creatures. I'm not going to mention some of the other horrible stuff. That was the PG stuff, I could say. The R-rated
Uh,
stuff, meet me in
yeah.
person. And I'll tell you everything you don't want to know. I promise.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, back to this whole thing. So here's why we want to talk about it, because we're going to discuss the amount of amps and voltage here, and so forth, going through with Pokemon attacks. So the amount of amps, because this is important.
Hmm.
So 1 milliamp, which is 1,000th of an amp, that's like a tingle, right?
Hmm.
So 5 milliamps, or 5 thousandths of an amp, it's a slight shock. Okay,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily painful. You can still let go, right?
Hmm.
So right as we get going, we said around 10 milliamps, so like 100th of an amp. That's where it's a painful shock, and the muscle control gets lost. It's it's like this paralysis that you like freeze up, and you may not be able to let go. Um, so you get to 50 to 150 milliamps. So that's essentially 500ths, or 0.15 amps. This is very painful. You can have respiratory arrest, so your breathing will stop. You have muscle contractions. The flexor muscles, it causes like this holding on. And yeah, you can die. So again, we're not even at 1 amp yet, and you can die. Um, so when we keep going here, we'll talk about like 1,000 milliamps, which is like 1 amp. That's where your heart pumping becomes non-rhythmic. It's that ventricular fibrillation. So
Hmm.
it's kind of, instead of bump 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 bump, it's bump 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 bump.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You're killing the microphone. Slow down. Take it easy. Calm down. Take a breath.
So, but anyways, your muscle contraction. This is where death is very likely here. And again, we're only at 1 amp. You get to 10 amps, and you're looking at cardiac arrest, and you have burns, and you're very likely to die. So here's why we're talking about that, because we wanted to ask, how much electricity uh, does Pikachu need to use to kill things?
Hmm.
So a finger. So, and this is where the issue is. It's not so much the amp. It has to do with the combination of the amp and the volt.
Hmm.
So like a fingertip, like static electricity, it can be as much as 30,000 volts. Um, it doesn't necessarily. It's not going to kill you. A wall outlet, though, which is 120 volts, can be lethal, and it has to do with the amp. Again, the amp is that pressure, um, and so um, you know again, we talk about like a pressure washer. It's the water that cuts you, but it's not necessarily the water that's cutting you. It's the force behind the water that cuts you. And this is the same thing here. It's not the volt. It's sorry. It's not just the volts or the amps. It's the combination of the two. So
Gotcha.
the amps are what are going to kill you, because the current interrupts the heartbeat. And so for this reason, localized shocks, they don't necessarily kill you, but if the current, as long as it doesn't go across the heart, you can get like burns, but if it spreads far enough, that's the same. But defibrillators,
You could say it.
defibrillators, they work on the same principle here. It's enough voltage to be, to get through your skin, and the current, kind of jumps the heart here.
Yeah, it allows for the electric rhythm to get brought back to what it normally is. So that's what a
Yeah,
defibrillator. So it does take a sizable voltage to actually allow to flow across skin and help if it's covered. It helps if it's covered out. However, it does not take a lot of amplitude to get through to you people. To give you an idea of how much amps a lightning bolt had. What did you say was dangerous? What did you say was lethal?
like 1 amp can kill you.
Yeah, so let's see. A lightning bolt in my notes. That is 5,000 to 20,000 amps and 10 million volts from Pikachu. In the first episode, he zaps the town with a lightning bolt. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, Ash should be dead." Like, forget Ash. There's a scene where he zaps the whole town with a thunder shock. Everybody in that town should be paralyzed, in a coma, or dead.
They are. That's why Ash is still 10 years old.
We're not using that fan theory. We're not. No. Oh no. So yeah, everything dies from being hit by a lightning bolt. Everything.
Yeah. So essentially, all Pokemon would essentially die if they were hit by a thunderbolt. That's the thing. Localized electric attacks could cause instant cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
So a small Pokemon wouldn't be able to stand the electricity and would probably die. So electric rodent killers in our world. We looked this up. We were trying to figure out how much amp and volts went into things that killed rodents in our world, and they're using just single-use alkaline batteries, AA batteries, which only have an output of 1.5 to 1.6 volts, and so that's compared to Pikachu's 10,000 volts. And I mean, we're talking things are gonna die here pretty quick.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
And so like the device here that kills rats in our world, I mean it's on 1 amp. I mean it's gonna last 2 hours. So it's just kind of giving you an idea. This 1 amp with 1.5 to 1.6 volts can kill rodents in our world. What would this 10,000 volts
10 million.
10 million volts do to any living thing in the Pokemon world?
Now, I do want to keep this in mind. When I said that everything dies from lightning strikes, there is, of course, the technicality rule. So there are people who, when they're struck, they've survived, and that is because the electricity passes through them into the ground. The lightning uses their body as a channel to get down back to the ground where it needs to go. Or other people
Mom,
just
I'm a lightning rod.
Or even then, just being insulated from the shock itself. Or people just get lucky. There are people who just like, wow, that did not hit your heart. Well done. You probably shouldn't go near power plants. But yeah, you're alive though. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right, so hang on. I have glitches just won't stop making. Let's see. And I quote, he can't leave because he's too amped to volt. And then they're having a pun battle on our YouTube comments.
I think Glitch should come aboard as our new comrade and come be our social media expert.
Glitch, you stay right where you are. You don't you move. I don't want to take my eyes off you. You're gonna sneak onto this feed somehow. I know you. All right, so that's all the real science out of the way. So now we're gonna go through every single electric rodent, some in pairs, some alone. And we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the features that make them rodent-like. And so we got to start with the big granddaddy of them all, Pikachu, number 25, most overused Pokemon in the game. So everybody else, like I said at the beginning, everybody has to do a Pikachu episode. Everybody does it because it's part of an unwritten rule when you work on YouTube or podcasts about Pokemon. You got to talk about them. Now, when I was looking through this research, everyone's already done how many amps Pikachu can use to kill somebody, how fast it can go, how strong it would actually be. Death Battle did a whole presentation on its stats. But the one thing I don't think people actually talked about were its cheek pouches. So the little red circles, no one actually talks about those. The cheek pouches in rodents are a really cool feature because the cheek pouch isn't just like when I swell up my face and just have a place. Cheek pouches are specialized organs made of different tissue that'll actually hold and expand to hold nutrients. Some rodents have true cheek pouches, some do not. So Pikachu is based on a field mouse effectively. Those do not have true cheek pouches, but they can still be used to store. Just having a very stretchy mouth allows them to deal with that. Now, give me 1 second on my notes here. Here we go. Now, Raichu, that's a fun one. So with Raichu, do you know what kind of rodent he turns into?
It's like a kangaroo mouse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right over here. I'm gonna point at it over. Hang on, let's see, right over here. Yeah, look over there. Look over there at the kangaroo rat.
If you look to the left.
Yeah, sure, left, right, whatever you're looking at. So if you look over there, you'll see the kangaroo rat. And what's really cool about the kangaroo rat is that it is a true cheek pouch holder. So I think it's really cool that Raichu, as it gets more powerful, has cheek pouches that could effectively store a lot more electricity. So I think that's a really little feature that they probably didn't think of, but it's just one of those coincidences. Now
And it can store more nuts and fruit too.
it could, yes, and it could make puffin out of them if you just squish his cheeks, or would that be like a Slurpee? I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
That's gross.
now the one thing we mentioned at the beginning about rodents swimming and swimming long distances, these animals, the reason that they gave Pikachu Surf was, well, it was funny, but also one of the cool things about rodents is, like we said, rats can swim up to half a mile. Them swimming is no big deal. So I mathed that out as best as I could to a human standard. Let me check my numbers. Yes. So theoretically, if you let a rat at human size with all its strength in comparison and just let it swim, that would be the equivalent of swimming 120 miles with little to no assistance. As opposed to
I
the.
know
Mhm.
I know most people who couldn't even swim like 200 feet.
Yeah, precisely. Now, the furthest human example I could find was done by a woman who actually swam it around 70 miles.
Yep.
And that was it. Now, keep in mind, these animals can also chew through steel. So just be glad that Pikachu doesn't have Crunch to go with it. Or, I mean, it does know Toxic, so that covers the plague pretty well. But other than that, this animal is downright terrifying. That's why the rodents took over the world. And again, as mentioned, the horrible electric shocks and death of women and children. You know that whole song and dance.
When the ship reached the shore.
Oh God, just go to the next section, please.
Oh, I have to do the next one.
Yeah, that's on you. That's on you.
Plusle and Minun. Oh, okay. Well, Plusle and Minun are adorable
Mm-hmm.
and completely useless.
Yes. 100%.
Anyways, no. So they're the cheerleader mice. And I think they were put in the game. We agreed that it really was meant as a way of kind of building upon the excitement for double battles. They were the first rodents not related to Pikachu,
Mm-hmm.
and they also had Helping Hand, and so these are kind of just kind of clones of the Pikachu line.
They're like the true clones.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot about them. Plusle and Minun, they use electricity in a way that's kind of shocking. Um, you know, uh, Plusle is said to use it in the Pokédex for therapeutic effects. Which you can think about treatments for mental conditions. Electro I can't say it.
Convulsive, electroconvulsive.
Convulsive. Thank you very much. Therapy, which is electroshock therapy, which doesn't necessarily work, but I don't want to talk about behavioralism because we're going to interview a behavioral expert at some point, behavioral psychologist.
Okay, we'll find one of those.
I know several actually from my background.
Sweet.
Anyways, getting into here, we know that people do this in the real world. There are people who use electrical stimulation for a multitude of therapeutic and pleasurable effects.
So a little bit about my history. My mom, my grandmother in Brazil, she had severe depression back in like the 60s and 70s, and so they gave her electroconvulsive therapy. It
And acid.
No, they didn't give her any of that. But what happened was she it made her, well, better. Like she got a bit of it, but she had to keep going back for treatment. So I don't know. How would you like compare? Like I guess like the human brain is ridiculously complex. I don't. I'm not
I
a
don't.
yeah.
So well, and here's the thing. So again, I listen to a lot of science podcasts. And I don't. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna emphasis here that I have never felt as Neil deGrasse Tyson as an expert on fields outside of his.
Mhm.
But he does often interview. There are several neuropsychologists and that he interviews frequently, and one of them was talking about it was a couple weeks ago actually, or it was right before the school year ended. They were discussing how poor our fMRI imaging is at this point. Like it's not. So a great way to think about it would be is that when an fMRI is happening, taking a magnetic imaging of the brain, um, it's like taking a normal picture, right?
Mhm.
So the issue is we have the technology, but the pixels, there's not enough pixels in the picture.
Yeah.
And so our images of the brain aren't concise enough to where we can pinpoint specifics yet. The other thing is that while it, and this is why I hate, this is why I hate, hate whenever you hear common sense would say, you're
Mhm.
like, no, no, that's not how the world works.
Mhm.
And so for most of psychology and most of philosophy, there's been this belief that, one part of the brain per function.
Yeah.
That's not remotely true at all. In fact, what we find is that when we are doing various activities, multiple parts are active at once. And so I talk about this a lot with my parents in my own classroom. Um, that, for instance, when you are reading to a child with a screen versus an actual text, different centers in the brain get active. Not one different part, but different sections get active. And so we can track multiple sections, but again, our imaging is not finite enough to where we can go, this is the exact, this and this are the exact points we need to trigger to get the effect we want. So we're just really not there to where electrotherapy would do anything beneficial. And if someone finds it to be helpful to them, that's great. I'm happy for them. My response is to the same people, like the people I know who go, well, you just need to, go running every day and you don't have depression. That's great. I'm happy that works for you, but that's not what science
Mhm.
says. I'm happy it works for you, but as a whole, for the general population, that's just not applicable.
All right. Yeah. So that's what was. Well, that was actually very insightful. That wasn't
Sorry,
even in the
I
script. No,
couldn't
that's
help it.
good.
I really like my field, and we don't get to talk about neuro stuff enough.
That's what tangents are built for. All right. All right.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, so the next one we're actually going to cover Gen 4 and Gen 5. We're going to go ahead and cover Pachirisu and Emolga. So they are both the next ones in the line, and they're the ones where they made a detour from the usual path. So instead of being your typical rodent, they became the atypical rodent, squirrels. Now, somebody who's on the screen did not think that rodents were squirrel. This guy, that guy down there, he didn't. He did not. No, you questioned me, and you suffer for it. They
I
are
have no
rodents.
idea. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have never once cared about rodents. Like, I enjoyed biology, and I took honors in AP Bio in high school, but I've never been like rodents. I really want to know more about them. I just don't care.
Well, you should have. In any case, so Patricio and Moga respectively are based on the gray squirrel and the flying squirrel. So the two things you should know, so a little bit about their stats. With Pachirisu, it's built a little more defensively than the others, which was seen in what VGC tournament was it? What year was that?
That would have been, okay, give me a second, because my daughter was alive. That would have been 14.
14. All right, so that was in 2014 when that Pachirisu became like the
Wait.
big thing, like to
Yeah.
use in the VGC
Yeah.
competition, and it's because of its defensive stats and Volt Absorb and all that. Emolga, not so much, but it's faster. So they didn't really put a lot of thought into these rodents specifically. I guess 4 and 5 were just the generations like, yeah, just throw it on the screen. We don't really care.
I don't know. I'd argue, especially looking at Pachirisu compared to the other ones, its abilities, its move sets.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pachirisu got a lot more love than Emolga.
Yeah, so a little bit about them. So defensive-wise, if I were to compare the two animals, I would have to give it to Pachirisu, the gray squirrel, because the gray squirrel's lifespan is around 4 or 5 years. But and that's if they survive childhood, because childhood sucks for everybody. But then you have the flying squirrel. They can only live for about 6 years if they survive childhood. And this is if they survive age-wise, they still have to deal with a lot more predators and a lot more sickness. They're not nearly as durable as them. What are you doing? Are you scratching codes? Are you scratching
No.
codes right now? That sounds like you're scratching codes. I hear coins.
I'm not scratching codes.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Sure you're not. Right. In any case, what's really cool, hey, put that, hang on, wait, hold it back, hold it back a little more. Let the camera, it's not zooming in yet, hold it back, further, back it up some more, little more. That's it, no, they can't see it, you animal. Stop it, you're ruining my science with your promotions.
If you can read this, the code is yours.
Gosh darn it, put it down. Fine. In any case, the one thing I will say is that with the flying squirrel, we covered it actually in our first episode. Emolga is the only one of the only flying types that could actually fly in the Pokemon world, given its weight distribution, given its size, and how it glides instead of flying. But we did forget to mention one thing. So in the Pokedex entry, it states that Emolga will scatter sparks all over the area in order for it to scare away other Pokemon so we can feed. Yeah, flying squirrels are not herbivores. They are omnivores. One of the things they feed on is bird eggs. So that means that when it's scattering those sparks and scaring off all the flying type Pokemon, it's just eating their eggs. So there's that. Like it is eating babies, so that's kind of fun, I guess you could say, about flying squirrels. The only other thing I can think of with squirrels is that they don't give them enough credit. A lot of people consider squirrels to be stupid. They can't see it. You're too close to the camera, you muppet. Back. No, put it lower. Now back it up a bit. Yeah, it's having a bit of a glare. So hang on, put it a little forward, little more, inch by inch, inch by inch, inch by inch. Yeah, it's too blurry on your camera to tell. Sorry, you lose. Yeah, don't worry. We'll post them somewhere. We'll find somebody to take these. Gosh darn it.
Entei, home needed.
Oh God. In any case, one of the things that you should know about squirrels is that they are a lot smarter than people think. One of the things about
they're very intelligent.
One of the things
I found out they were gonna overthrow the Colombian government.
Oh, no, that's a Rick and Morty reference, and I will not tolerate that here. I can out-Rick all of the people who are listening. Nope, you're holding still again. All right, hold still. Don't move. Don't laugh too hard. There you go. You're good. It caught you like in a horror phase, like while you were laughing.
What do you do, Morty?
No, enough. In any case, with these animals getting back on track, the squirrels will actually they will dig up nuts, but they will make false piles for animals to go after. They will only do this if they know they're being watched. So they can actively plan out, do I bury the real nuts or bury a fake patch if I'm being watched? So I think that's a really, really cool feature that these animals have. So I think that's also something that should be important to note with these animals. They're smarter than we give them credit for, especially with rodents. We put them through mazes for a reason. All right, so I think that covers 4 and 5. Let's see, any other questions pop up? Hang on. So Mr. Collins, where did you put? I see you said there you go. I didn't see the whole thing.
I gave him the code.
Oh, you gave my friend CJ the code? All right, there you go. All All right.
Thank you, Echo Knight.
All right. Sweet.
Moon Knight.
All right.
Let's talk
So
about Amolga because it is
we already talked
adorable.
about Emolga. We're going next.
I mean, Dedenne.
Dedenne. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna talk about Dedenne. Now with Dedenne,
Yeah.
it was Gen 6, and this is actually my favorite rodent. This is my favorite of all of them by design, simply because it has all of the features that make a rodent. It is a mix of hamster, house mouse, and gerbil all thrown into one. It's got the tail, it's got the ears, it's based on an animal with actual cheek pouches, and more important than any of that, it has whiskers. Whiskers are stupid important. A lot of animals you know every day have whiskers. So vibristles, let me see if I pronounce that. Vibristles, thank you. Vibristles are the main thing that they are made of, and they use to survive in the world. So the vibristles are the whiskers. They're very sensitive, connected to the sinus cavity. If you watch footage of rats moving in the dark, they're using their whiskers to feel their way around, to find their way in that darkness, to find their way near water, food, prey items, anything. So even if their eyesight fails them, they can always feel their way throughout the world. Without those whiskers, it's effectively like running without one of your senses, like running without your ears. You can't hear what's going on around you. Now there is one of the ways that is one of the ways they move around at night, find food. But long nocturnal rodents will have longer whiskers than the diurnal ones, the ones that stay up during the day.
Well,
Mhm.
so I know, like sea lions.
Mhm.
That is animal I do know.
Yeah.
Their whiskers, like they're sensing, just like catfish, they're sensing the movement in the water, and that's how they navigate. So do like rodent whiskers work the same way?
I would believe so, except that they're going to be made of different stuff given their environment. So the seals' whiskers are not as long, so they're made for
Okay.
feeling those changes. The rat's whiskers, you'll note they come right out. They're great for feeling around in those cramped spaces. Because these animals are in a much more closed environment, usually with grass or shrubbery or whatever, they're going to have to try and feel their way out through that
Okay.
area. Let me see, do I have any other notes on him? Dip, 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 dip.
No,
No, I think that's
I
all
think
my
while we
notes.
were talking
Yeah.
about,
All right,
yeah, the
now,
whiskers.
here we go. The argument.
Okay, so
Ah,
so
ah,
this one we're gonna
ah.
we're gonna emphasis here that we are arguing about this one because veteran Lucas is convinced that it is not a rodent, and I am determined to prove him wrong. I
So,
am determined.
so if y'all look at the one, I think it's over here. That one picture of the kangaroo rat. Next to it is the picture of
I'm
the
posting
rodent
this.
that he thinks it is. You can post if you
No, I
want.
have a better one.
Oh
I have a
gosh,
better
what
one.
is
I'm
wrong with you?
posting it right now in the chat.
Ugh.
Here you go. Click on this picture. Oh, it says, "Oops, it does not like the address."
Oh, never
Well, that's
mind.
not very nice.
Yeah,
I
that's.
do like the address.
All right. So anyway, we're gonna talk while you're getting your thing set up. I'm gonna build my gaze. So Todegamaru is the one we're going to be talking about. Now, for me, it's clearly based on a hedgehog because it's round and has spikes and a hedgehog's face. Now, hedgehogs are actually not rodents. They are part of the same order as things like shrews and whatnot. And one of the cool thing about them is that they have a couple of really neat abilities. So, for starters, all the spikes on their back, those are all hairs that come out, those quills. They're just specialized hairs designed for piercing and attacking their foes. They're going to ball up to try and hide, very similar to how Todegamaru rolls up into a ball and tries to deal with this problem. I mean, like it's a hedgehog. That's my argument for it. It's even a steel type. Do you know how many animals are resistant to venom? Like four, including things like the honey badger, pigs, mongooses, and the hedgehog. Those are the
Well,
four animals that are immune to poison, and they made it a steel type. It
okay,
is a
so
ball of spikes. Sonic the Hedgehog gotta go fast. It is a
I
hedgehog.
I don't disagree with you that there are symptoms of hedgehog there. However, as anyone who's listened to our show at any point in time, uh, does know that a lot of times we have found a lot of these things are based on more than one animal or more than one mythos, or it's just a multitude of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also just had two whole episodes where we argued that everything in this game is very Japan centric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Go on.
I'm going to argue that it is the Ryukyu, either the Ryukyu spiny rat or a combination of the Ryukyu spiny rat and the long-tailed giant rat?
I'm listening. Go on.
So the Ryukyu spiny rat is the thing pictured in the picture here on the YouTube. But the Ryukyu long-tailed giant rat has like these long, stupid spines that stick out of its body, and I don't know, man. Like it makes me think. It makes me think that there was some influence. So like the Ryukyu spiny rat is a rodent found in the Ryukyu
Archipelago.
Thank you very much. And its natural habitat is subtropical areas.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Where do we find Togedemaru? Subtropical Hawaii.
Actually tropical, but go on.
I don't think Togedemaru is in the forest, is it?
Um, hmm.
Huh. Okay.
Hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna get this.
Drop the mic.
Hang on. No, that's why we have a live episode with the internet.
Anyways, yeah. So, its name in Japanese is Togen Izumi.
Mm-hmm.
Togedemaru, Togen Izumi. I mean, spine is spine, spike, spine, spine, spike, spike, spike. And it lives in an island threatened by a non-native mongoose. Huh. Sounds like Togedemaru, who's threatened by a non-native mongoose.
Hmm. All right, you have good evidence.
And it lives on an island where it is also threatened and has to compete with non-native black rats.
Got a lot of evidence piled up. Uh-huh.
And guess what Togedemaru has? Non-native black rats, because those stupid things being brought in from elsewhere.
Filthy
and
sailors.
Then it's got a non-native mongoose, because they're brought in to eat the rats.
Hmm. You make a valid point. However, I am going to put out that it is found on Blush Mountain, which is a rocky terrain, unlike the forested jungly rat areas, which is very similar to the environment of a hedgehog. You might have some points, but I'm going to take most of them. It looks like a hedgehog. It could have the emotional baggage of your rat, but it is based on a hedgehog.
All right, fine, whatever.
We will let someone else debate it. If they want to fight in the comments,
yeah,
do your thing.
Fight it out, guys.
Or don't. I don't care. One way or the other.
No, yeah, I don't know. I think it just kind of comes back to the fact that the more you and I investigate the things in this game, the more I'm thoroughly convinced that
Japan loves Japan?
Yeah, I mean, really. I have so many Japanese friends from university. It's not funny, and I just I don't have an issue with it. That's fine. But I think it does end up at the end of the day, because of the fact that the audience is not just Japan anymore. I think so often the references are missed. As we said in the yokai episode, I think the references are missed by especially by Americans, because I mean, you and I have talked about the fact that there are other Pokemon podcasts we know who don't catch these references, who don't understand them. And I mean, the amount of people, I mean, every other day, every few weeks, I see someone post that stupid picture from Gen 5 where someone compiled all the regions and edited them to make one giant Pokemon map.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, no, that's not it, you stupid fool.
No, they're separate.
Pokemon is literally our world.
Mm-hmm.
It matches the cities match to the key.
You gotta let it go. Gotta let it go.
The places of interest match, but it lines up perfectly. I mean, it's crazy. Everything in these games is so intentional, and I think, and this ties into a neuro defect that as humans we have. We look for signs to affirm our beliefs and values.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of the fact that Japan is such an isolationist culture and America is America, that we miss it. And we miss this opportunity to have these discussions about this other culture that has a lot to offer.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, man. I
And
agree
I
with
think
you
that's
wholeheartedly.
my closing point for tonight.
And my closing point is that rodents are awesome and terrifying all over the place and in your house right now. And so, with that, guys, we are going to wrap up. I want to thank all the people who stayed and listened to the whole thing. I want to thank you guys for being here. Now, for those of you who are just picking up on this, I'm going to try and get this recorded on audio. So, if you're hearing this now, well, you're those people. Thank you for listening as well. So, like we always say at the end,
For
what's
everyone
up?
who came out live tonight, please thank you. If you did not come out live, please mail us in our group. We have 12 cards left to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, we can. I don't care. I don't care who gets them. Now, I
Yeah,
will.
no, I don't either.
So if you've joined us live, you probably are on us on our social media. For those who aren't, you can find us on Twitter at Pokemon Science. We'll be there, although not as frequently as our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is
But we are working on changing that. And
We
if
are.
you're interested in applying in the social media position, please let us know.
Now we obviously have our Facebook page, the group Science of Pokemon. We also have our page Poke A Science. You can find us there. We have our email of pokescience@yahoo.com because some people don't like social media, and I get it. I think we covered everything. Obviously, find our episodes on iTunes, Podbean. I'll try getting them on YouTube in the future. But for now, those are the two places to find us.
And just be
mhm.
cautious here because we're coming back. We got invertebrates, crustaceans, reptiles, and then fossils. And we're talking about another live episode. And I'd like the next one to be about what animals we think, and this is going to need your input, the listener. What animals we think need to exist in Gen 8.
Yes, and what abilities we would give them, what powers we would give them.
Yeah, and that's going to be the whole discussion here: is how would they fit, and how would it match that animal? And I don't want to do mythologies because I think that should be for a later date. But let's talk about it. What animals do we think